Welcome to the Rankings Podcast, where we feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and elite personal injury attorneys and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Chris Stryer here, president and founder of Rankings.io, where we help elite personal injury attorneys dominate first page rankings. You're listening to the Rankings Podcast, where I feature elite personal injury attorneys and innovative business owners. I'm excited today because I would like to introduce Ken Hardison, president and founder of PILMMA, Powerful Innovative Lawyers Marketing and Management Association. Prior to launching PILMMA, Ken helped build Hardison and Cochran, one of North Carolina's most successful firms, as well as Carolina Disability Lawyers, a successful social security disability firm in Myrtle Beach. Last but not least, Ken is also the author of 2 books, Systematic Marketing, How to Grow Your Law Firm Without Losing Your Mind, and Under Promise, Over Deliver, How to Build the Preeminent Law Firm in Your Market. Ken, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you on. Yeah, so let's kick things off. Take me back to the early days. Take me back to Hardison and Cochran. What was it like in those early days?
Okay. So the way this worked out was the first 12, I graduated from law school in 82, went in with this oldest firm in a small town, about 10,000 people, Dunn, North Carolina, and built up a pretty good practice. And then in like 92, 93, I started just plateauing. And we weren't doing anything but yellow pages and just word of mouth. I did a little bit of everything, did a lot of PI. I did all the PI in the firm. We had 3 lawyers. I did Social Security and PI and criminal, not felony, but just misdemeanor, DWIs. And I went to court one day, and this guy walks in. Just call him Joe. I don't remember his name. This is about 2000. This is about 1995, 4. And he's walking on crutches and had a broken leg. I said, what happened? He said, this semi-trailer, hit me broadside me. I said, well, I do that. He said, yeah, but I hired this guy off TV. I figured he must be good if he's on TV. And I thought to myself, this guy has never tried a case in his life. But he was a great marketer. He really was. And he was one of my biggest competitors after I got rolling. And he does a good job with marketing, and he's hired some really good lawyers. So I've nothing to say bad about him. But at that time, I was just shaking my head and went and tried his DWI, and of course I won it. Go back to the office. I sat down with my partner. I said, we got to rethink this thing. And they said, it's unprofessional. We're never going to do this. And so we had conversations for about 6 to 12 months, and I just took off and left and started my own firm in 96. And I started with me, another lawyer, and 3 staff. And took some of the cases. We worked out a deal, and I paid them a percentage, and we did some cases. So I went out and borrowed everything I had. I mortgaged everything. I even say I mortgaged my first son. But I got a $500,000 line of credit, and I went on TV. And we went from signing up 20 cases a month to 120 cases a month in like 90 days.
Wow.
And that's a great thing, but that's also a bad thing.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that later, but that's how it worked. And, so that was just, it was really good and it was really bad. I could expound on that if you want to, but whenever you
want. I would love to hear that. So I was going to ask you, what was that moment? But it sounds like that moment where this inexperienced attorney, got a case that you would have liked to had, and because he was doing marketing. So, when you jump from 20 to 120 cases, obviously there's chaos, right? Then you have a different problem. You got an operations problem. So take me back to some of those.
Yeah, so it was like crazy, man. We were not prepared for it, and so one of my biggest aha moments was I read Michael Gerber's E-Myth,
great book.
And then I had this lady that had helped build another personal injury firm come to me, and she says, "I can help you if you're willing to work." She says, "I can help you turn this into a multi-million-dollar business." I said, all right, let's go for it. And so she was really instrumental in helping me create processes and procedures and like employee manuals and hiring and onboarding and training. Now, the other thing this did, though, it created a hell of a cash crunch because, you know, I had some cases, but I was having to give like half the fees away to my former partners. So, you know, it was dire. I mean, you know, even though I was, you know, I felt like I was sitting on a gold mine, but it was like, I remember January of 98, I told the lady, her name was Cheryl Leon, I said, if this thing don't change by June, we're shutting it down. I said, I can't, I'm first time I've ever been depressed in my life, man. I mean, I actually stayed in bed for about a week, and I never have been depressed since then, but it really was just overwhelming because we were behind on bills like 60, 90 days. And we're sitting on friggin', you know, almost 1,000 cases. I mean, you know, but people got to get well, you know, and you don't want to sell it for nothing. And I was real particular about that. I won't want to just, I'd rather go bankrupt than to sell out to a client. You know, I was real stubborn. But then the big defining moment was in June of 98. I'll never forget, we had our first $100,000 a month. And it just grew like wildfire. And 4 years later, we had 13 lawyers and 47 staff, and we were doing about $4 or $5 million a year. And then we got up to about $8 million, and I sold it in 2010. And was going to come down to Myrtle Beach and retire. And
doesn't seem like that was in you, Ken. Looks like you're.
I like to build things, but I get bored once I get them rolling. And I had started PILMMA sort of as a hobby in 2009. It was sort of like a hobby, you know, because a lot of lawyers would call me and want, you know, pick my brains. And I said, you know, evidently I must know something. So I started charging for it, you know, and but it was really a hobby. And then when I got serious about that, we built that into a multi-million-dollar business. And then
Ken, let's for our audience, you know, what is PILMMA? What does PILMMA do?
Okay, well, we started it out. So what we are is that we help law firms grow. So what we do is we do a monthly magazine. I do masterminds where I do coaching, one-on-one coaching. I do group coaching. We have webinars. We have Q&As. You know, we've got a big vault full of forms and articles and webinars and video trainings. And we created some software to help you figure out your ROI. We've got some software to help you figure out. I created these 5 stages of law firm growth and what the sticking points are and what you got to do to overcome and get to the next step. We get people to take those tests, and then we tell them, this is where you go to get the information, or this is what you can do to get there quicker. And so what we try to do is shortcut it so that lawyers don't have to make the same mistakes I did. You know, it's somebody's already been there and done it most of the time. So, you know, the deal is get there quicker and less expensive. And we charge a monthly membership fee, and we've got like 3 levels of membership. But the masterminds is probably what I'm best known across the country for. I run like 5 different masterminds, meet 3 times a year. It's sort of like a mini board of advisors. I got different levels, you know, people that are smaller firms, medium, and then I actually got one where the lawyers all do 8 figures. They do anywhere from $10 to $50 million a year, but also got firms that got little solos. I got the platinum that they do. They might not do but $250,000 a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But their goal is to get to the 8 figure, you know, most of them.
Right.
Not all of them, because some of them just want, you know, everybody wants something different. Some of them just want 40 hours a week or 30 hours a week and make net a couple $100,000 and they're happy. But most of them are, what I found with PI lawyers, that they're very aggressive, and they're sort of like my uncle. They don't want all the real estate in the land. They just want everything that butts theirs. You know?
Yeah. You know, one of the things I wanted to say is, automatically before our interview when I was prepping, and I've seen your guys' advertising. So I saw the Ultimate Mastermind Group, and you mentioned in your video you have to apply to join. So instantaneously, even myself, I'm not even an attorney, and I automatically had that fear of missing out like, well, what is this? So what I wanted to ask you was, what separates the 7-figure attorneys from the 8 figures? They all want to congregate together. What makes them different?
Okay. There's a couple things, but I think the biggest key is that they actually get shit done, and they're not, and they make decisions quickly. The key, I think, is having focused discipline. What I mean by that is, if you got focus and you got discipline, then you're going to execute. But I see so many lawyers that, I need to do this. I'm going to get around this, or I don't know, that might not work. Their biggest problem is their own self and their mindset. And it's part of law school. They train you to think analytically and look at the worst thing that can happen, because you're trying to do that for your clients, to protect them. But then you end up doing it for yourself, and it's the wrong mindset to grow any kind of $1 million business, because you've got to take calculated risk, and you can't sit around and just wait, and overanalyze. What I call it analysis paralysis. I mean, sometimes you people just want a damn decision. Let's just go. Sort of like the Nike commercials, just do it. But I think that's taking action, getting shit done.
Yeah, I love that. So I was in Vistage, and what I referred to those individuals as is ruminators. They would just ruminate on ideas and not execute.
Yeah.
And they get an idea and they just take it. So I've got a funny story. I'm going to break away from this just for a moment, and you may not even know this. So a couple of years ago, Michael Mogul from CRISP, at the Game Changer Summit,
right,
the top referral partner got a Tesla, and of course you won. Do you know who number 2 was?
You evidently.
Yeah, I was number 2, and I got zilch. So the Ricky Bobby quote, "If you're not first, you're last," kind of comes to mind there.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good. Well, hey, you executed, and it was well deserved. And we can't all do everything. So I wasn't even trying for that competition. Honestly, I like to, if there's something that I'm not good at, I like to refer to someone that's great at it. So that's kind of the situation I ran into, and I'm sure that's the same as you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And my whole deal is, I think another key to my success has been that I'm humble enough to know that I don't know everything. And I actually have no problem surrounding myself with people that are smarter than I am in certain things. When it comes to technology, I suck. I mean, I don't even know how to type. So, I have to, when it comes to technology, I really have to hire people that are a lot more talented than I am. I'm not really a good manager. I'm a good leader, but I'm really terrible at managing. I'm not a detail guy. I'm a big vision guy, ideal guy. So I have to surround myself with people that are detailed and are good managers. I've always had really strong managers to manage my people, because I just suck at it, to be honest with you. Because I think I want everybody to like me. I think that's one of my big problems is. And so, I have a problem with that. But, I kind of got over that. The biggest problem I had, one of my mentors told me, says, every decision you make, here's the bellwether, is it in the best interest of the law firm? And it might be you might have to fire somebody that's dating your. I had to fire the president-elect of the North Carolina Academy of Trial Lawyers. I had to fire the sister of one of my main managers. But the deal was, it was in the best interest of the law firm.
Ken, let's talk about that. That is something that's different. Most people will just set on these, C players and try to turn them into a B. If you read top graders, you can't take a C to an A. No. You might be able to get them to a B. What's your process to take care of that action? What have you learned from having to make those tough decisions?
Yeah. Well, the basic principle is hire slow and fire fast. Okay, that's the basic principle. But I think the big deal is I'm more into attitude. Well, what I'm saying is, I can teach somebody. I'd rather have somebody with no skill sets that's got a hell of an attitude and got the right mindset, because I can teach them that, but I can't teach them to be hungry. I can't teach them to be a team player per se. I can teach them to be a better team player, but I can't teach them to, if they're individuals that are renegade and going to do it their way, I can't teach them. They're going to fight me. So we go through a process. First thing I do is when we do the ad for the job, whatever it is, I put something in there that they got to do, that if they're just sending out just 100 resumes, they won't see it. And I just dump those right to start with. Like when I'm hiring a marketing director, I said, write two paragraphs about who David Ogilvy is, who was one of the best marketers in the world. And then I might say, if it's a manager, I might say, tell me who Michael Gerber is. And then sometimes paralegals, believe it or not, I used to say, when you've seen the application, tell me who won the 2009 Masters. And all I'm doing is just making sure they're reading and that they got the ability to go look up something online, right? And then we go in, we pick, thread them out, then do some interviews, about 2 levels of interviews. And then we narrow it down to about 3 people. And I give this test. I've been using this test since, I don't know, 15 years. It's this guy, Jay Henderson out of Raleigh, called Real Talent Hiring. And it tells you, it's not an IQ test. It's not a personality test. It tells you their ability to solve problems, and whether or not they're going to be a team player, or whether or not they're inner-directed, which I didn't know what that meant until you have a conference with Jay after you do this test. And the test is weird. It's like 20 things you got to rank from worst to best, and another 20 things you got to rank from best to worst. And it's stuff like the Holocaust, a baby, an angel, flat tire. I mean, it's just crazy shit. How can you come up with this? But he does. And I found it to be like 95% reliable. Nothing's 100%. But inner-directed is when somebody, and mostly inner-directed people are very brilliant, but I can't work with them because they see a problem and they see the answer very quickly. But there's always more than one answer, right? But they only see their answer, and they don't understand why everybody else is so stupid. They don't see it, and they will not listen to any other alternatives. Those people I can't deal with, and they're brilliant. I tried one. I said, Jay, can we hire? I just love this guy. I said, I think I can change him. He said, you can try. And it lasted 6 months. But he was brilliant, and I liked him. I liked everything about him. But Jay told me, he said, he's inner-directed. He said, with your way you're keyed up, you're going to have a big problem, because I like to look at all the different deals. I like to thresh it out. And I like input from everybody. Vision,
innovative.
I don't like to kill the messengers. I mean, I don't have any problem with somebody disagreeing with me on anything. In fact, I welcome it. You cannot have a bunch of yes people. I mean, that's what's going on with Trump right now. He's got rid of everybody that's why he's ineffective now. He's got rid of anybody that will challenge him. He just wants yes people. And that's the worst you can do running a country.
I completely agree.
Anything.
You have to be challenged.
Yes.
Let me jump in here and ask. So just to kind of summarize, so you do, when you get all these resumes, instead of even, looking at 1,000 resumes, you're having them do an assessment. So that weeds out the people, and you can identify who's following the directions. And then at some point you do, I wouldn't call it a personality assessment like DISC or predictive index or Colby. It's more this internal one to see if they're the right fit.
Yeah.
Let's say you hire this individual, they go through this process. And by the way, doing that is going to weed out, it's going to increase your chances to find the right person.
Right.
Well, let's just say that somebody slips through the cracks.
Yeah.
They're not performing. They're not executing. They're not meshing with your values.
Yeah.
What are the steps you take then?
Well, I mean, usually when I hire somebody, it's on 90-day probation. And so I usually know, and usually it depends on what it is, but sometimes I'll try to rehabilitate them. but most of the time, to be honest with you, I just get rid of them.
Yeah.
I just don't waste a lot of time. If it's something just a little, but if it's a major deal, I just don't try to even deal with it. I just say, this is not a good fit.
Yeah.
I said, you're great and all this, but you're just not a good fit for us. And that is the deal. You got to get somebody that aligns with your values, and that's some of the questions we ask them. Like, we're all about teamwork. We practice the strategy of preeminence. Everything we do should be for the betterment of our clients or our members. But when I was a law firm, I had this deal. I told them, I said, when you talk to a client, put grandma at the end of the sentence. And if you wouldn't talk to your grandmother like that, don't talk to our clients like that. I call it the grandma test. I stole that from a guy named Jeffrey Gittimer, who wrote a book. He's out of Charlotte, North Carolina. He's a big salesperson, and he's written a lot of sales books.
Is he the little red sales book?
Yep.
Yeah. I've read that one. It's a great book.
Yeah. So, I really pushed that. I had a client service manual, and they had to take a test when I had my law firm, and they had to hit at least 90% or I didn't hire them, even after I did the testing and everything, because they had to be really client centric, because we were spending at our height about $2 million a year on marketing, but we still were getting like 42 to 45% of our cases were coming from old clients, referrals, which you say, well, 45%, it's not that big a deal if that's all you're doing. But if you're doing $2 million a year, doing TV, SEO, before I got out of the phone books in 2005, but I was spending $650,000 a year on phone books in North Carolina.
Wow.
And I went from that to nothing in 1 year. And of course, they all went crazy. I was one of the first ones to pull out. I saw what was happening. I went to the internet in 2006.
Well, you pivoted. You saw what was working and what wasn't.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings me, I've got your book right here. I read it. It's an excellent book, Systematic Marketing. One of the things you mentioned is you're building a sales machine, and a lot of the stuff you're talking about is in there about your different marketing tactics. And it's just a full machine from the first moment they contact you all the way to when they become a client, and then they're an evangelist for these referrals. For those who haven't read Systematic Marketing, what are some of the top tips that you would say? Just a couple tips for our audience.
Yeah, God, it's been so long. Well, here's the deal. I think this is the big deal. And actually, I talked about it more in my other book. But I look at marketing for lawyers in three phases: before representation, during representation, and after representation. And most lawyers, all they think about is before representation, because they're thinking about how can I get them to call me, raise their hand, fill out a form, hire me. Then probably 50% of the lawyers think about during and try to make it a great experience, a Starbucks experience. Maybe 40-50% of them do that. But what I found is that probably 90% of lawyers, once the case is closed, they forget about them. And that is a big, big, big mistake, because you really need to nurture that. It's like I told somebody, you can take any business I've ever owned and take everything. I can only keep one thing. I want my database, because I can take my database of my prior clients and all that, and I can start with that, and I can build another $1 million business. I promise you. I've seen businesses be bought and closed down because all they wanted was that person's database. That is so important. And it just used to blow my mind out when people would join PILMMA. I said, well, do you have a date? No, I don't keep up with that. I said, not even past clients. But we used to keep up with people that called that didn't hire us or we didn't want their case. We put them on our newsletter. We sent them birthday cards. We sent them Thanksgiving cards. I never sent Christmas cards. And I talk about that in my book, because everybody else, I want to stand out. I've always tried to be innovative. I think, the deal is, it was funny. I was talking about it yesterday with my wife, and I said, we were talking about something we were doing at PILMMA. Somebody's copied it. I said, that's the biggest form of, she's upset. I said, it's the biggest form of flattery. I said, listen, when I practiced law, I was always the leader. I'd do it at work for about a year, and then everybody else would follow, and then I'd have to figure out something else. I was the first one to put magnets on phone books in the United States. Before it was just paper, I was the one to come out with a magnet. And,
I've got people still using the magnet technique.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I used to send them out all my Thanksgiving cards, and if they didn't get one or whatever, they'd call me and say I didn't get my calendar magnet. I was the first one to come up with a 30-day client service satisfaction guarantee that drove all the lawyers crazy. And now, there's probably one or two lawyers in every market in the United States doing that now, and they copied it from me. I didn't trademark it, and I'm fine with it. I didn't want to, because I think it's a good differentiator. I mean, so I've always tried to be looking at the next thing. And just like with PILMMA, I'm doing something nobody else is doing. I'm saying, we'll grow your law firm by 25% the first year, or you stay for free for another year. I figure if they can't do it 2 years, they're just not executing.
I'd say, you got your ruminators. Your people not executing.
Yeah, there's going to be some people like that, but most of them, what I've found is usually my most successful lawyers are the ones in our masterminds, and they're the guys and gals that get stuff done. But you were talking about the application, it's a good way to get people who want to do it. But, I actually have turned down people. The last one I turned down, my wife, the girl, I just didn't feel like she was ready for it. And she just hounded my wife, and my wife talked me into letting her do it. And I did, and my wife was right. I was wrong. I mean, I was wrong. I was, and I kind of took her money, but I said, I don't want to take your money. She'd only been in practice a year. I said, I think it's just too much money for this. I think I'll give you 10 things you need to do and then come back, and then no, she had to be in it. And she's proven me wrong. I mean, the girl's kicking butt. I mean, that was about 3 years ago. She just had her first $100,000 a month. I mean,
awesome.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about, I mean, there's just so much knowledge that you could share. I mean, we could talk here for hours, and many of these resources are on PILMMA, and you just give them away for free.
Yeah.
Guys, we've been talking with attorney, author, and entrepreneur Ken Hardison. Ken, where can people go to learn more about you?
You can go to PILMMA, PILMMA.org, and we've got, this is free. We've got a coronavirus survival kit. And in that, I'm doing weekly webinars, and I've got people coming in and talking about like how to go remote, how to manage remote, we just had an employment lawyer on yesterday about what you got to do with all this new FMLA Act. We got a CPA coming on next Tuesday talking about the tax credits. We got SBA loan guy coming in. And then we got a lot of articles and stuff like I just found out yesterday that Facebook's giving away $100 million worth of grants. I didn't know that. And so we're putting that on there. We're putting stuff on it every day. We're putting so much stuff on it, we had to categorize it now. And we keep adding stuff. So that's absolutely free. It don't cost you anything. And, it's there. It's there for anybody. It's good information, not just for lawyers, but for any business.
Ken, that's very generous, and that's excellent for anyone visiting their site, and that's PILMMA. And guys, Ken, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Rankings Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.